Season of Discovery is finally here. This is a guide to tell you everything you need to know to do Feral DPS as a druid, including what runes to use, what rotation to use, what talent tree to use, and what gear to get. Now, first of all, we're going to look at what races to play. If you're going to be Alliance, then Night Elf is the only option. If you're going to be Horde, Tauren is the only option, and that is the end of that. I will say that Night Elves are actually preferential as they have more agility as a base race than anybody else in the game, making them very, very attractive for Feral DPS. Tauren, however, does give more base health than any other race with their endurance racial, but as a DPS, are we going to want that as much as damage? That's up to you. If we look at the stat priority for Feral, first things first, you're gonna wanna hit that hit chance of 9%. That is the cap at 25. Now, whether you will actually get to this or not is another matter, but as a priority, this is what we want to try and aim towards. Second being strength, third being haste, fourth being agility, and fifth being critical strike. And again, at level 25, we may not actually even be able to get some of these things on our gear, but this is the priority that we want to follow overall so that we don't fall into any bad habits. But generally, I think the most thing you're going to find on your gear is going to be strength and agility. So looking at the runes then, some of these are really, really interesting. The first one is going to be Wild Strikes. Now, while you are in cap form, your party members within 20 yards are going to gain increased combat ferocity. Each melee hit has a 20% chance of granting the attacker an extra attack with 20% additional attack power, which is huge. Now, this is going to bring the Wind Fury buff effect to the entire party, and this does include alliance teams. This is quite literally one of the strongest buffs for melee DPS in the game right now. This is phenomenal. This is always what we're going to take in this slot. The next up is Savage Roar. It is a finishing move. If you are new to Feral, then they use energy and combo points and finishing moves, just like rogues do. This one is going to increase your damage by 30%. And the more points you use, the longer it's going to be. 1 point, 14 seconds, 2 is 19, 3 is 24, 4 is 29, and 5 being 34 seconds. Putting it simply, this will increase your DPS by a flat 30%. It is amazing. It's going to be absolutely essential that we do keep up Savage Roar at all times to maximize our damage in our rotation. And lastly is going to be Mangle. This means is a new ability that you're going to mangle the target for 300% of normal damage and cause the target to take 30% additional damage from bleed effects and shred for an entire minute. This is also going to award 1 combo point, and it's going to benefit from and triggers all effects associated with Claw and Maul. Looking at the gear then, there isn't a ton available, but these are some of the best items I found. Starting off with the one green on our screen, Humbert's Helm. This is from the Dungarroch Rifleman in southeastern Hillsbrad Foothills. They are friendly to Alliance players, however, so this is technically a Horde-only item, and it is bind on equip, meaning you can actually get this on the auction house, and if you are Alliance, you can get this through the neutral auction house as well. The Mantle of Thieves could be a tricky one, and I'm not sure if this will realistically be obtainable or not, but I'm putting it in here because it is one of the best items that can be worn at level 25. And again, it is BOE. The reason I'm saying this is it's from Razorfen Crawl, which is a level 30 dungeon. So it may be really difficult to obtain this in phase 1. Time will tell. But you know what? If people are good enough to get it, it could end up on the auction house and it could be quite expensive. But it is one of the best items. This is going to be the exact same with Troll's Bane leggings here. These are a BOE again, but they're from level 26 to 33 mobs. So with group content, if people are getting these, you know, they could be on the auction house again, could be quite expensive. Again, I'm showing you these because these are the best, not because they're the easiest obtainable. You've got the Feet of the Lynx here. These are from 20 to 27 mobs, which may be a bit easier to find than the Troll's Bane leggings. We've got Smite's Mighty Hammer, which is from Mighty Mr. Smite. This is a boss in the Dead Mines. So this should be perfect for phase 1 and should be relatively easy to obtain. The wolf claw gloves as well are, by the way, from Razorfen Crawl and could again be a bit more difficult to obtain. But again, like I said, these are some of the best items you can get and they are available for level 25. Looking at the talents and rotation then, this is the talent build we are going to be using. And I know what you're probably thinking, there's not actually any points in Feral, which does seem a bit crazy, doesn't it? But let me explain. So the reason I have actually circled these 5 points is there's 5 points you've got here in Furor, which is in Restoration. Gives you a 100% chance to gain 10 Rage when you shapeshift into Bear, or 40 energy when you shapeshift into cat form, meaning you can weave in and out of your cat form, getting that 40 energy every time you go back into it. And that is the reason why we have that in Restoration. Now, you don't have to go through this. If you don't want to be doing cat weaving, you could then take the circled one, which we haven't got any points in the screenshot, which is in Ferocity, reducing the cost of your maul, swipe, claw, and rake by 1 energy. And that is per point up to 5 energy. So the reason that we are having to put all these points in then to balance is really for that last point we've got on the 3rd row, which is Omen of Clarity. So we're putting 5 out of 5 points into Improved Wrath. It's unfortunately useless for us. And then we're going into Natural Weapons. This is increasing damage. This is on the 2nd row. Increasing damage you deal with physical attacks in all forms by 10%. And then Omen of Clarity, the last point in balance, imbues the druid natural energy. Each of the druid's melee attacks has a chance of causing the caster to enter a clear casting state. This is going to reduce the mana, rage, or energy being the one we're using here, reduces the energy cost of your next damage or healing spell offensive ability by 100%. So putting it simply, Omen of Clarity is incredibly powerful, meaning that we can use really expensive abilities for nothing, and we can do that in cat form. So even though it's actually down there in balance, this is actually a massive DPS increase for us as a feral cat DPS. So how are we actually going to use this all in our rotation? Well, when you go into your pull, use Tiger's Fury. This is an ability that increases all damage done by 10 for 6 seconds. It's on a 1-minute cooldown. Then we're going to use our Mangle from our rune to generate combo points and put the debuff up on the target. We're then going to use our Savage Roar, which is our 2nd rune we mentioned, to increase all that damage we're doing by 30%. And then we're going to maintain that as our primary finisher and keeping up that buff on our enemy. Then we're going to use Mangle to generate additional combo points. We're going to use our Shred ability with any clear casting that we get. This is our free one, remember, from that Omen of Clarity talent. And then making sure that, of course, Savage Roar is up at all times. Our filler finisher is going to be Rip. And this is a finishing move that causes damage over time. You can use your Tiger's Fury 4 to 3 seconds before a pull, by the way, as you are running in. Because after that, if you're thinking that's going to give you a few seconds, after that, it just isn't worth the energy that we're going to be spending on it once you're already in that pull. And then really what we're looking to do is keeping up that Savage Roar debuff, keeping up that Mangle Bleed debuff on our target. And then at level 25, the most efficient spell to even spam is going to be Mangle. But do always make sure, as I said, to use your clear casting procs from Omen of Clarity talent on your Shred ability instead. Because we are using Savage Roar as our main finisher and we're keeping up that debuff as much as possible from the huge 30% damage increase, it does mean that we may not be able to use our Rip one to keep up that damage over time as much as we want. But again, time will tell. This is really going to depend on energy and how much we really have available to us at the low level of 25. But overall, that still doesn't really impact the rotation. It's still going to stay the same, even if we can't keep up Rip as much as we'd ideally like to. And that is pretty much it. That is how you do Feral DPS in Season of Discovery Phase 1. It's going to be a really interesting one, I think, for Phase 1. And I think in Phase 2, when we get some more talents, it's probably going to completely change. But Feral's definitely one I'm really excited to try out. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. Feel free to join our Discord where we have lots of other players doing Season of Discovery. And of course, click that subscribe button so you don't miss any more videos.